Salutation to everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you, and hopefully we'll have a good moment sharing about a theme that we've decided to do as a series. But the master theme is to reinvent your destiny. And that's in the spirit that we can take our destiny at hand, and that in order to do this, we must be able to reconnect with our identity, our true identity as a human being, and as our purpose, in this life. So it is ambitious, it is philosophical, and it's a theme also that we're proud to present as a series divided in 12 sessions, taking each sign of the zodiac as a challenge for the path of the philosopher, a path, or heroic path. And we can associate to this the works of Heracles from the Greek mythology, and discover how they actually inform us about how to live those moments around the cycle of the year. So let's ask ourselves some fundamental questions first. It's a bit of the why we can say what we're doing and why the zodiac and the signs of the zodiac inform us. There's a universe. So these are stars and galaxies, we think. Indeed, it's a real picture of a deep sky, stars and galaxies and everything else. Or this could also be the cells of our body. Look through a microscope and the proper lighting, it could easily look like that. As well as the atoms of molecules. We know, for instance, that there is something like 1,000 billion atoms and molecules in a cell, that there are 100,000 billion cells in our body, and the galaxies have 1,000 billion stars. In philosophy, we speak of this living universe, like that great living cosmos. And another aspect too is that everything turns in the universe, revolves, rotates, spins. It all turns around visible and invisible centers. Visible centers are obvious, planets around the sun. Invisible could be, for instance, the rhythm of your breath or your heartbeat. So the rhythm in time is also a revolution around an invisible center. So these centers are like suns, like stars. They're solar archetypes. They are sources of universal life. And there is a harmonic resonance between light and life sources like this that are the spiritual sun behind all the stars, the physical sun of the solar system, our solar system, and our own inner sun in ourself. So we'll be speaking of the inner life as much as the outer life. And this exists in the cosmos as well as within us, because we are a microcosmos. We're a miniature cosmos. It may be good to remember that the cycle of the years, of a full year with, let's say, the 4 seasons, or depending where you live on Earth, there are still seasons, but there's a cycle. It corresponds very much with also the phases of life. Like we have 4 major phases in our life. We can divide in different ways, but let's say over 84 years, We could talk about the first 21st years as the spring, and then 21, 22 to 42 as being the summer of life, then 42 to 63 as the autumn of life, but an autumn where you harvest, you actually harvest and use. It is like that celebration of the richness of a life. And then 64 to 63 to 84, the last 21 years would be very much a phase of decline, but of wisdom in terms of like a winter, a calm time where the inner life is more important in order to drive you forward, and it prepares you for for leaving this planet for the next cycle. So in a way, if we look at it like this, cycles in a year or a lifetime have meaning in terms of seasons. So I thought that this initial perspective was important before we go any further. This way, we don't really need to have too many references about sources, who says what, according to what theory, and etc. Because the references are life itself, is the sun, our own sun, that allows life to grow on earth and us to live, and our own inner sun, that is our own will and consciousness and drive in life. So I'm bringing this back, that harmonic resonance between light and life sources of the spiritual sun, universal sun, the physical sun, our star, and our inner sun, the self. So how does that play? Let's come back to Carl Jung, and he talks about the archetype in terms of us individually. He says it is a spiritual essence which a priori forms the human experience through the very structure of the mind, and which conditions the patterns of thoughts, representations, and behaviors. So that's why it is a philosophical approach, to be able to work with archetypes, because it is about the evolution of consciousness, and it is the realization too that any change will come from our relationship to that spiritual essence that will lead to transformations in our behavior. So it starts in the mind. It's a mindset that can become a mind shift. And here, Carl Jung also shows us a diagram of the unconscious self, and where the internal sun would be, that self. That's like the sun in the middle. It's a vital source of our outer and inner lives. The outer life being expressed through the ego and the personality, and the shadow also, animus and anima. So for everything externally expressed, there is going to be the non-expressed side, the shadow side, the complex. And it is full of energy, unconscious energy. Some of you may be familiar with this 100-year-old science of quantum mechanics, where we say everything is potential. What manifests is only one small facet of the energy that is in potential. We could consider that the shadow, anima and animus, that zone has a lot more potential than what we actually express in our lives. But it is a balance, a flow between the two that will be required, and that requires an inner struggle, conscious. And I'm adding here, for those who are familiar with the sevenfold constitution, or the triad and the personality, how that triad would be the spirit, the being here in the middle at the top. It's as if we see it from the top, and then the psyche on one side and the soma, body, on the other side. It's just a different way of showing the three spheres. But look at that. The zodiac does indeed incarnate or embody forms and functions in the organs of our body. Okay, so Aries at the top for the head, then Taurus, then this is actually Cancer, it's a crab. The Taurus is for the neck, and so we have the Cancer here, the Leo for the plexus, solar plexus. We have Gemini for both arms, but also both lungs. The Virgo, that is in the zone of digestion, the stomach, digestive system. The scales of the Libra that are for both kidneys, the genital organs with Scorpio, then Sagittarius in the legs, or the thighs, which are the biggest part of the body, that's important for blood pressure as much as the heart. And for the knees are Capricorn, and Aquarian is in the ankles. And finally, the feet are the Pisces. So, we saw zodiac in the sky, different types of zodiacs for the full rhythm of the cycle, but here's a cycle too, even through the body. Depending on how the time you were born and where the major planets are, the places that in your body where the stress will gather will be very much easily found through that map. And we could say that most Aquarians can have issues with ankles, but not always, because they may have stronger concentration of other planets in other signs of the zodiac. So we have the whole zodiac that we have to learn to balance and deal with. So there is the zodiac, a heroic philosophical path of self-awareness.